Your AC stopped blowing cold. You already know you need to get it looked at. What you don't know yet is that before you hand those keys to anyone, there are 4 things you can check yourself. In a parking lot, on your phone, with no tools. And in most cases, one of those 4 things is going to be your entire problem. The fix costs $15. Sometimes it costs nothing. And the shop's charging you $180 just to tell you what it is. They are counting on you walking in before you learn what I'm about to show you. I spent 15 years in this industry, moved cars at auction, managed inventory, sat in enough F&I offices to know exactly how the math works from the other side of the desk. And the service department was its own operation. I watched a guy come in one summer with a warm AC, retired, fixed income, drove a paid-off sedan he'd owned for 11 years. They wrote him up for a full AC system overhaul, parts, labour, flush, refrigerant, diagnostic fee, $1,400. His problem was a cabin air filter that cost $8 at the parts store and takes 4 minutes to swap. I know because I looked at the write-up afterward. The filter was dirty. They replaced the filter. They charged him for everything else anyway. That's not the exception. That's the model. What I'm about to walk you through is the actual sequence a trained technician runs when a car comes in with a warm AC complaint. The first 3 steps cost you nothing. The 4th costs $15. All 4 take less than an hour. And at the end, you will either have cold air or you'll know specifically what the real problem is and what a fair repair should cost. You will not be the easiest person in that service lane. Before I show you the checks, I need you to understand one thing about why this works as a business. Because once you see it, you'll stop being surprised by it. Your car's AC is a sealed system. Refrigerant runs through it in a closed loop. Under normal operation, it doesn't burn off, doesn't get consumed, doesn't wear out. But rubber O-rings age and harden over time. Small fittings vibrate loose over 100,000 miles. Seals dry out. And when refrigerant escapes, even slowly, even in trace amounts, the system loses charge and it starts blowing warm. Not broken, not failed, just low. According to EPA Section 608 reporting data, the average passenger vehicle loses between 15 and 20% of its refrigerant charge in the first 5 years through normal micro-leakage alone. Every technician in every shop in America knows this. They also know that 90% of the people who walk in with a warm AC complaint don't know this. And that gap between what they know and what you walk in knowing is a billing opportunity. The $180 diagnostic fee isn't there to find your problem. It's there because you came in before you found it yourself. That changes today. Check 1. Free, 90 seconds. 90. Do this before you do anything else. Open the hood with the car running and the AC on max. Find the AC compressor. It's belt-driven, mounted to the engine block, and it has a clutch on the front face of it. Here's what you're looking for. When the system has adequate charge, that clutch engages and the entire front face of the compressor spins. When the system is low on charge, a pressure cut-off switch kicks in and kills the clutch. The compressor stops cycling. The pulley on the outside keeps spinning with the belt, but the center hub stops. Sometimes it tries to engage and disengages every few seconds. You'll see it click on and off. Look at that clutch for 30 seconds. Is the center hub spinning continuously? Good. The compressor is engaging, the charge is probably not critically low, and you move to check 2. Is the center hub stationary or is it cycling on and off rapidly? Your first suspect is refrigerant. You've already saved yourself $180 and you haven't touched anything. That one visual tells you more than most people learn after paying a diagnostic fee. Hold that. Check 2. Free. 3 minutes. This one catches people off guard because it sounds unrelated. It's not. Your evaporator core sits behind the dashboard. The blower motor pulls cabin air across it. The evaporator pulls the heat out of that air, and cold air returns through your vents. There is a filter between the cabin air and the evaporator. Its only job is to catch dust and debris before it chokes the system. When that filter gets fully saturated, and they do, typically somewhere between 12,000 and 15,000 miles, airflow across the evaporator drops. Less airflow means the evaporator gets too cold, ices over, and now you get nothing coming through your vents even if the compressor is running perfectly. Symptom you might recognize: AC that blows almost nothing for the first 5 minutes after startup, then slowly improves. Or AC that used to be cold and now just pushes lukewarm air with no pressure behind it. The filter is behind the glove box on most vehicles, or under the dashboard on the passenger side, or at the cowl near the base of the windshield. Your owner's manual tells you exactly where. Check the index under cabin filter or air filter. Pull it. Hold it up to a light source. If you can't see light through it, you've found your problem. The filter costs between $6 and $12 at any auto parts retailer. The same filter, installed by a shop after a labour charge, runs $35 to $50. Same part, same function, same manufacturer in most cases. The markup is not in the product, it's in your not knowing where to look. If the compressor is engaging and the cabin filter is clean and you're still getting warm air, that's when you spend $15. Go to AutoZone, O'Reilly, Advance Auto, Walmart, any of them. You want an AC recharge kit. The most widely available option is AC Pro, model ACP 100. Runs $20 to $25. Includes a gauge, a hose, and 1 can of R134A refrigerant with a stop leak conditioner built in. If your vehicle was manufactured after 2021, it may use R123YF refrigerant instead. The kit for that is labelled separately and runs $30 to $40. Both are legal to purchase and use for your own vehicle with no license required. Here is the exact procedure. Engine running. AC on maximum cold, maximum fan speed. Windows up. Let it run for 5 full minutes before you connect anything. The system needs to be actively cycling. Find the low pressure service port. It's always on the larger diameter aluminum line, the suction line running from the evaporator back toward the compressor. Blue or black cap, stamped with the letter L. The high pressure port has a red cap stamped H. The recharge hose physically cannot thread onto the high pressure port. The fittings are different sizes. But find the correct port before you begin. Remove the cap. Press the coupler collar down, seat the fitting on the port, release. You'll hear a brief hiss. That's normal. The hose is pressurizing. Now look at the gauge. At idle with AC on max, low side pressure should sit between 25 and 45 psi depending on ambient temperature outside. Below 25, or in the red zone, your system is low. That's your confirmation. If the gauge reads normal and you're still getting warm air, stop. The problem is mechanical, expansion valve, compressor, blockage. And that does require a technician. But now you know that going in and that information alone changes the conversation. If the gauge confirms low charge, shake the can 30 seconds. Hold it upright. Trigger in 5-second bursts. Watch the gauge between bursts. Let the system equalize. You're targeting around 35 psi at 80 to 85 degrees ambient. Don't rush. Don't overshoot. Stay under 55 psi on the low side. Disconnect. Replace the cap. Go sit in the car. Within 60 seconds, you should notice the air getting colder. By the 5-minute mark, if low charge was your problem, and it is the problem the majority of the time, you should be at full cold output. $15. 45 minutes. No appointment. No diagnostic fee. No 3 days waiting for a slot. Now. Here's the part the shops really don't want you to know. And this is the part that costs the most people the most money. Not the diagnostic fee, not the recharge. What comes after? You go in. The tech confirms the system was low on refrigerant. You expect that's the end of the conversation. Then the service writer comes back with a second line on the estimate, AC system flush, also written as AC line purge or refrigerant circuit evacuation and recharge. The pitch, old refrigerant breaks down, contaminates the system with moisture and particulates. A flush is required before a proper recharge can hold. Here is what's actually true. A vacuum pull, where they evacuate the system with a pump to remove moisture before recharging, is legitimate. It takes about 30 minutes and it matters if air or moisture has actually entered the loop. A full system flush is a different procedure. It's rarely warranted on a system that simply lost charge slowly over time. Refrigerant doesn't degrade under normal operation. Compressor oil circulates with the refrigerant and doesn't need replacement unless the compressor has mechanically failed and pushed debris through the lines. The vacuum pull is a $40 to $60 labour charge. Reasonable. The flush they're adding on top of it runs $150 to $250. And in the majority of cases, it is a solution to a problem your vehicle does not have. When the service writer mentions the flush, ask one question, not 10. 1. Did you find metal contamination in the refrigerant? If the answer is no, or if there's any hesitation, the flush is discretionary, not urgent, not required, a profitable recommendation attached to a real repair. You don't have to argue. You don't have to get hard with anybody. Just ask the question. Hear the answer. Make the call. That's the whole move. A 2022 Consumer Reports investigation into service department upsells found that AC-related services, specifically refrigerant flushes and system additives, ranked among the top 5 procedures that technicians themselves acknowledged were not typically warranted by manufacturer maintenance schedules. The shop is not always wrong, but it is always incentivized toward yes. One more thing, and this one is free every time. Before you authorize any AC service beyond a basic recharge, ask one more question. Is this service listed in my manufacturer's maintenance schedule? Every automaker publishes one. For most vehicles, AC system flushes do not appear in it, not at 50,000 miles. Not at 100,000, not at any interval. They are not manufacturer-recommended services. They are shop-generated additions. You can find your schedule in your owner's manual, or by searching your year, make, and model, followed by Scheduled Maintenance PDF. 3 pages, usually buried at the back. Once you've read it, you'll know exactly what your vehicle's manufacturer says it needs. And that's the only authority in the room that doesn't have a parts margin attached to its opinion. That document is a weapon, not because it starts arguments, because it ends them. I said 4 checks, but what I actually gave you was something closer to a system. You now know how to read a compressor clutch. You know where the cabin filter is and what a failed one looks like. You know how to recharge your own system with a $15 kit and a gauge. You know which upsell to push back on and exactly what question to ask. And you know how to use your manufacturer's own maintenance schedule to cut through recommendations that exist for someone else's benefit, not yours. I watch people get taken apart in service lanes for 15 years. Good people. People who did their research on the car purchase, negotiated well on the price, and then walked into the service bay trusting the system because they'd exhausted what they knew. And the service department was ready for exactly that moment. What just changed is, you're not that person anymore, not for AC, not for this. The next time you pull into a service lane with a warm AC, or the next time someone you know does, this is the sequence. Clutch, filter, charge, upsell question, maintenance schedule. In that order. The problem is almost always in the first 3. The money is almost always lost in the 4th. Share this with someone who's heading into a service appointment. Put it in a group chat. Send it to the person in your life who pays whatever the shop asks because they don't know they can do anything else. Every person who watches this is one person who doesn't get written up for $1,400 worth of work on an $8 filter. Subscribe if you want the rest. We haven't touched what happens in the finance office. We haven't talked about how to read a V1 report the way someone who's actually looking for problems reads one. We haven't talked about auction titles and how they follow a car onto a dealer lot under a clean face. All of that is here. All of it is coming. But first, go check your compressor clutch. Everything shared here is general consumer information. Always have a qualified mechanic perform a full pre-purchase inspection before buying any used vehicle.